All right, here we go. Welcome to another episode of the Non-Victim Nation podcast. I am joined once again by Dave Blau, who's one of my favorite human beings.
Oh gosh, just because I showed up. Yeah, right.
No,
But I'll take it.
yeah, there
I'll
we
take
go.
it.
So, you were on the show previously, and we talked about your career in jiu-jitsu, which was pretty interesting. Um,
Career?
yeah,
Doesn't a career assume that imply that you're getting paid for it?
sure.
Oh, then it's definitely not a career.
Uh,
Journey.
but with that being said, you are what rank now?
I am a second degree black belt.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. Ooh.
You won how many championships?
I have six world titles
Okay.
and national championships and state
Uh,
championships and blah 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 blah.
See, but there's a whole bunch of white belts out there right now going,
Wow. Okay. It's just a long time ago, right?
okay.
Okay, but I at least I try to be honest with that
Uh-huh.
because jujitsu 10 years ago is a
Uh-huh.
lot different than it is now.
Right.
There's a lot more people that do it and it's a
Mhm.
lot more mainstream. So back when I started
Mhm.
20, 25 years ago, yeah, hey, bro, take it easy over there. You just pay attention to the cameras and make sure everything's working right. Talking crap already, and we're just starting. No, back when I started, shoot, I think there were only three black belts in the state, the entire state.
Wow.
Yeah. And now you can shake a stick and you're gonna hit one, right?
Right.
But back when I competed even at purple belt or brown belt in
Mhm.
my old guy division, there were only a handful of competitors.
Okay.
And now there's a lot,
Mhm.
even in the old guys division. So it was easier. It was easier to win back then than it is now. I'll
Right.
I'll be honest with you. It's just harder. I thought it'd be easier as I got over 50.
Mhm.
These freaking ex-professional athletes are coming into my sport now
Right.
and screwing it all up. I'm
Yeah.
I'm 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 fighting guys that were, ex-defensive linemen for the Detroit Lions. I got beat last year by a guy who was a first round draft pick in the NBA. He's 6'8",
Uh-huh.
tall,
Wow.
just stud black guy who was tall and played 6 years with Kevin Garnett. And I tried to sweep this guy and just call her. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in big trouble.
Yeah.
And for somebody to make me feel small,
Yeah, because you're how tall?
I'm 6'3", about 250.
Okay.
I actually broke 250. I'm coming back down, but yeah, it's no joke anymore. And I'm honest with one of my titles in Nogi Worlds. There was only, I think there were two other people signed up in my division.
Mhm.
One guy got injured and one guy didn't show. So I walked up and they gave me my gold medal.
Right.
So I don't really count that one
Mhm.
per se, but in the overall, I do because I
You
did
showed
show up.
up.
I
Yeah.
showed up. There were other
Yeah.
people signed up. It wasn't like, there's
No,
nobody signed up into my division, but I don't really count that one.
it's
So
not like
I try to be honest. And when I say a world title, I am very clear to say it's master seniors world championships. It's not, the adult division is not the same thing.
right.
Those guys are they're
Okay.
freaking professional athletes. I do this for fun.
But with that being said, it's not like somebody called you at home while you were sitting on your couch eating Doritos and said, "By the way, you won."
No, it wasn't. But another caveat with the difference between the adult division and the master seniors,
Uh-huh.
when if you've ever seen the competitions,
Uh,
there's a bullpen, right? So after you weigh in, which I don't have to weigh in. I'm in the fat guy division, right? So you get your gi checked, and then you kind of like, I mean, everybody like Mad Dog and other
mhm.
people. I don't. In my
Right.
division, we're too old. We don't give a crap, right? So
Mhm.
hey, so what's going on? Are you my guy? All right, cool. And you'll start talking, and I've built friendships
Mhm.
with talking to guys before we compete, and then we go out, try to choke each other out
Right.
unconscious, and then I have lifelong friends
Mhm.
from guys that I just competed one time against, back all the way from blue belt,
Okay.
that I'm friends with on social media. We're both black belt, really cool guys. And one guy, he's like, "Hey, want to know what my secret weapon is?" Yeah, man, what's up? He opens up his gi and he pulls out a Snickers, starts eating it. I'm like, Right. Yeah,
It's
so
awesome.
it's a little different in the master senior division as it is in the adults, where these guys are paid, they're
Yeah.
professional athletes, they're doing it full time, not my division. But as I've said, the quality of competitors has gotten a lot better,
Hmm.
I think in the last 5 years too. So yeah, it's a lot harder
Right.
to get a world title now, I think, than it was even 5 years ago.
Yeah, that
That's my
stands to
opinion.
reason.
So I try to keep it real.
Right. Um, I think that not only has it become more popular, but the jujitsu is, I wouldn't say the only martial art, but it's the one that evolves the fastest, it seems. Where like
Yeah,
it's so far away from its traditional roots, like the where it was founded,
right.
to where it is now. It's like it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously I was never in competitive judo or taekwondo or those competitive, but I think it's to its credit, I
Hmm.
think it's the most real.
Hmm.
Obviously, I think if you go and you talk to any UFC champions and they say what's wrestling and jujitsu and stand up,
Hmm.
I think without a doubt it's the most real and progressive, and it does continue to change. You get guys that are changed it with Keenan Cornelius, who was coming up with stuff where I'm old school jujitsu. I still only do this handful
Right.
of moves,
Yeah.
the basic stuff. But now these new guys that are coming in and Mikey Musumeci and a lot of these guys are developing
Hmm.
different systems into this art that's how many years old? I,
Yeah.
I don't even freaking know.
Yeah.
Generations old, and it's still developing, still effective in street fights and that kind of stuff. So it checks off a lot of boxes for me, and that's what's
Right.
kept me interested in it all these years,
Hmm.
even at my ripe old age of 50 something.
Um, one of the people that I would love to have on here eventually is Henner. Um, because he's just so his presence is just so charismatic. Just I love listening to him when he talks, but also because he came from really strong roots in
Yeah.
that
Oh
family.
yeah.
And like the foundation of his jujitsu as he's come up, and the way that he's developed his system and everything is really interesting.
I've met him.
Yeah.
He's a stud. He's an amazing person.
Hmm.
So yeah, I've seen videos of him as a little kid rolling with his grandpa. The one of the founders,
Hmm.
the Godfather, right?
Right.
And him and his brother Hiron and
Hmm.
Henner are the real deal.
Hmm.
I know that they take a lot of heat because they'll give blue belts through
Right.
through the internet, which
Hmm.
I actually have gone through
Hmm.
a lot of their training. I was actually going to open up a Grace University school
Oh, nice.
before COVID started. I put money
Right.
down on the location, the whole thing, and so kind of started drinking their Kool-Aid, and their jujitsu is based purely on self-defense.
Hmm.
They don't really do the sport stuff.
Right.
Their curriculum is unbelievable. It's very good. It's very concise. It's very clear. They have a method of teaching. It's impressive.
Mm.
Um, and so I think the people that automatically jump to, oh, they're giving blue belts over the internet. It's pretty legit. The way they do it, it's
Hmm.
not just like, you have to submit a video. You have black belts, assessing it and judging it on the criteria and how they do the technique, and
Hmm.
their blue belts are pretty freaking legit. I would wager to say that a sport jujitsu blue belt and a Gracie University blue belt,
Hmm.
they have better technique, overall fundamentals
Well,
than a sport jujitsu guy.
right.
That's my opinion. So, anyways, I didn't end up doing the school,
Hmm.
but I'm all for the self defense aspect of it. I'm a sport jujitsu guy. I think we do a disservice to a lot of our students, is in fact more so to our females,
Hmm.
from not implementing the self defense aspect of it better.
Hmm.
Because you're not going to sit there and pull guard or butt scoot in a freaking street fight.
Right.
And if somebody came up and grabbed even one of our stud female brown belts or black belts in class, I don't know that they would know what to do if me went up and grabbed them with both my hands around their neck. We don't teach that stuff, and I
Hmm.
I feel in my heart it's we sport jujitsu guys
Right.
do a disservice in teaching that self-defense aspect of it.
Mhm,
And I have a lot of friends in law enforcement that
mhm,
would come and try out jujitsu, and
mhm.
I'd be rolling with them. Hey, can you get to, pretend, can you can you get to your hip like where your gun would be? And they're like, oh yeah, go ahead. Oh crap! And they don't have the body awareness to even know that I have the underhook on their right side on their gun
Right.
side,
Yeah.
and they can't get to it. So I kind of started rolling with a lot of my law enforcement friends that way, like,
Mhm,
hey, make sure that you're thinking about this. And consequently, I went and took the GST 1 and 2 certification. I went out to Texas
wow.
and learned how they have a whole curriculum for law enforcement
Mhm,
and for cops specifically. And it's really good. It's a week long, 40-hour course, legit. And the only people that are maybe a little smarter than firefighters are cops. And that's not saying a whole lot. So for to be able to take a group of
mhm,
60 cops and
uh-huh,
teach them something like legit in a
uh-huh.
week, the only thing worse, we can teach monkeys to pull hose,
Right.
but cops are not much brighter
Uh-huh.
and they do a really good job. And then I went and took the my cop friends um
Mhm,
went out to California for the GST2
right.
at their facility at
Uh-huh.
Henner and Hedron's facility. They're good dudes, man.
Yeah.
They're like legit. They practice what they preach.
Mhm,
Henner, oh my gosh, I was on a Zoom call during COVID, and he was talking. That dude talked for 2 hours and 45 minutes nonstop.
uh-huh.
Didn't take a drink of water. Kept the intensity up the entire time. I was I was blown away.
Yeah.
I've
Mhm.
never met anybody that has more charisma and
Uh,
energy, and it's almost like just for real. Like, man, he's like, it's too much.
Yeah.
That's him.
Mhm,
That's him. He is amazing,
yeah.
and they practice what they preach.
Right.
It's not just like I I I really think highly of them.
Mhm,
Like I said, I didn't end up doing their stuff,
mhm,
but I have nothing but respect for their program, for what they do for law enforcement, the quality of instruction. And so I actually became a certified instructor.
mhm.
I was hoping to help bring that into Arizona, but it didn't quite work out that way.
Right.
But
Uh,
I
too
love,
late.
huh?
It's not too late.
Well, yeah, I actually got the director of DPS at the time
Mhm.
uh, into jujitsu.
Oh, nice.
And I don't take credit. I mean, I just met him as he came in, and we became friends because he's freaking 6'7", 6'8". He's a monster of a man,
Mhm.
and he's a stud. Like if I had a man crush on somebody, he's one of them.
Yeah.
Uh, and he could not understand how I could just
Mhm.
take him, flip him over and
Right.
control him because he's a stud.
Yeah.
And man, he's now brown belt, and
There you go.
he still loves it. He's not the director anymore, but he still trains.
Mhm.
And so I thought I was going to help bring this curriculum into cops because I think that it really adds a lot of value
Right.
to what they do because they only get a little bit of training on ground fighting,
Mhm.
in the academy, and it's not sufficient in
Yeah.
my opinion at all. And then what to do when you're out of breath, what to do when you're getting punched in the face. Again,
Mhm.
we don't do a very good job
Mhm.
teaching that in jujitsu and Henner and Hiron and their stuff, which I think they actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they were sent to the Valenci brothers years
Mhm.
ago when they were young.
Oh, yeah.
Their dad sent them,
Mhm.
and the Valenci brothers are really they kind of started that defensive jujitsu stuff,
Hmm.
and they I think they kind of took
Yeah.
some of their stuff and made it their own,
Right.
which I don't think the Valenci brothers had any problem with it, but
Yeah.
another program that I'd love to go and
Yeah.
learn one day.
So during COVID, I was listening. I mean, I'm always listening to podcasts and things like that. But I happened to catch an interview with Henner,
Hmm.
and he was talking about that whole system that they had created of like being like, I guess, I don't know if you call it like long distance learning,
Hmm.
like setting up these programs that
Yeah.
people could learn that couldn't physically make it there for whatever reason.
Yep.
And, how they had gotten a lot of flack from their peers and their school and, on this is not a good idea and you shouldn't be teaching this way. But when COVID happened and a lot of schools just either failed or really dropped their attendance because people couldn't show up, it's like, hey, maybe this wasn't such a bad idea,
Turned out to
and
be a
you
little
know,
visionary.
yeah.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
it's thinking forward like that that I think is a good thing. It's just like the sport itself, and this is something that comes all the way back from Bruce Lee. You cannot be stagnant in what you do. You have to think forward and be able to adapt because you don't know how things are going to look in the future,
I would agree.
you know.
They are very, and they never settle. They're always working on something.
Hmm.
Always, you know, Hiron is kind of the hey, he's the nice guy. The hey, bro, let's go,
Yeah.
meditate and go, do some yoga on the beach. And then there's like, I got to make some deals. I got to do this, make some calls. They're
Right.
definitely a yin and yang with the
Right.
two, but they're still brothers. I've
Hmm.
heard stories of them still
Yeah.
being brothers.
That's awesome.
And but I have nothing but the utmost respect for him.
Hmm. So there was another project that you are no longer working on, but you had started. It was a children's program. So I've always wanted to hear more about that.
Okay, so in the fire department,
Okay.
when I first got on a long time ago, over 26 years ago,
Back in my day.
back in my day, oh, um, yeah, I do sound like an old fart, and I am. But back in my day, the fire department would come in and talk to schools, right?
Hmm.
Even when I was a kid, right? They'd bring the fire chief down and they'd put put on their gear and they'd everybody be like, "Oh my gosh, it's a fireman." Super cool. I've always really enjoyed working with kids. I was actually thinking about being a teacher, but you get treated like crap and they
Hmm.
don't get paid anything.
Right.
But so I've always enjoyed working with kids. Um, as the new guy, we call them booters
Okay.
in the fire service because you got to some depending the new guys back in the old days they
Uh-huh.
used to have to shine the boots of the old guys, right? Some of them might say, well, hey, new guy, you know what? The gum on my shoe
Hmm.
that's underneath my boot, you're below that.
Yeah.
So, in the hazing part, we don't haze anymore, right?
It's not. Mm.
But back in the old days when they used to haze, that's know your place, right?
Hmm.
And so yeah, we call them booters.
Hmm.
And so when we'd go into schools, a lot of the old guys didn't like it. It's a pain. They didn't know how to talk to kids, and last thing I wanted to do is talk about stay low, stop, drop, and roll, and stay low and smoke. So it was the new guy. They'd be like, "Hey, new guy, get up here and talk to these 400 kids for an hour," and you're like, but I loved it. So
Right.
I walked right into it. I had young kids. Probably the greatest thing I've ever done is be a dad,
Hmm.
and so maybe it's because I've got the mind of about a 7, 8 year old mentality with the jokes and stuff. I still do the stupid dad jokes, and
Which I
I, I,
absolutely
I got
love.
I got a million of them. But I stepped right into it, and I loved it.
Hmm.
And so I would tell jokes, and they're like, I always they didn't realize I knew I was doing good when I could get the kids to laugh,
Hmm.
I could get the teachers to laugh,
Uh-huh.
but then I could get the firemen in the back to laugh, and I'm like, because again,
Yeah.
not much stretch with the mentality,
Right.
there, and it just kind of blossomed from there.
Uh-huh.
And so then I met a friend in the city of Chandler, Stacy Sacco. She was in the videography department,
Hmm.
and we decided to do like a PSA back back in the old days, about Halloween, about trick or treating safety.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so we collaborated on something, and I had gotten into there was some there there were some firefighters that would do clowning,
Hmm.
again trying to make it interesting for the kids so that
Hmm.
we could keep their interest, because just a bunch of old fat guys up there with their turnouts, you can only hold kids attention for so long. So
Hmm.
I actually went to it was called a last it was a conference held every year in Bullhead City, and
Hmm.
people from all over the United States would come together, and they would teach fire safety through clowning.
Hmm.
And so I'm like, okay, that's weird. I never thought weird clowns were creepy or anything, but I never really thought of
Yeah.
that. But so I went to it doing puppetry and clowning, and I kind of again drank the Kool-Aid a little bit.
Hmm.
And I've always been a clown, got in trouble in elementary school for being
Right.
a ham and a knucklehead and a clown and so it came natural to me. I got a character and did the face paint. I look
Mhm.
back on our first episode and it was kind of creepy. It was not very good, not very good, but it has evolved over the years.
Right.
And so Stacy and I, after we did that, she's like, "Hey, we should do a television show, a kids television show. Not many cities have their own show." And it kind of morphed from there, and we got some grants, and we
Nice.
now this is years ago we had 32 episodes that air on the public access channels. And I think at one time they were throughout the state.
Hmm.
Other states would grab a hold of it because it was free programming.
Hmm.
They would give it away free, and so these city channels would need programming, so they would run them. They went some other places around the world, right?
Hmm.
So and there were different topics, not just about fire. Some were seat belts, some were bicycle helmets. Back again years ago, seat belts weren't
Right.
a huge thing,
Yeah.
and bike helmets now it's commonplace. But back then, we were trying to get kids to buy off on the importance of it, and we would do shows.
Right.
And some were germs and hygiene, latchkey kids. Back in the day,
Hmm.
not anymore, but back in the day,
Right.
kids would come home from school and mom and dad were at work, so
Yeah.
we had a show about it. And it just kind of grew, and it was kind of more of a labor of love. It's not something that I made any real money off of, but
Hmm.
I was able to include my kids, my wife, some other friends, and it was kind of a collaboration of a bunch of people that donated their time and came together and made these shows. It's called
Hmm.
Sprinklers Clubhouse. You
Cool.
can find it on YouTube,
Nice.
and so don't judge the first episodes too harshly. But when they came out, I had a lot of firefighters be like, "Oh, freaking hate you, Dave." I'm like, "Why?" Well,
Yeah.
my kids watch your dang shows all the time, and
Nice.
I can't handle it.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun,
Mhm.
and we did a lot of good. I was able to go down to Tucson every year with my children and teach water safety, which is a big thing.
Right.
In Arizona, that's a huge problem, water safety and
Right.
drownings, and oh, gonna not try to get emotional because
Okay.
I'm a big baby, but um, the worst calls that I've ever gone on in my career have been
Yeah.
included kids. So, um, for me, if I could educate children
Hmm.
to make maybe some wiser choices,
Hmm.
uh, to alleviate that chance of them getting injured, to
Hmm.
where a fire crew has to go, sorry,
That's okay. So,
has to go and run on those kids.
mhm,
And there's a lot of trauma with that,
mhm,
and that there's a lot of great things with the fire department, but that's one of the worst. And so I didn't want for myself or for anybody else to. So that was a big deal to educate those children. I had a good time doing it,
mhm.
and so that was kind of my motivation for doing that. And it kind of blew up into this big thing, and it was a lot of fun.
That's
It's a
really
lot of
cool.
fun. That was
It
probably
is.
more than what you wanted.
No, not at all.
So
I love
it was
hearing
a
about
kids
stuff like that.
television show,
Right.
and so when people say, "Hey, why are you such a clown?" I'm like, "Well, you have no clue.
Right.
I am a clown.
There you go.
I'm actually a professional clown. I've gone to many
Mhm.
conferences, and
Yeah.
I get to incorporate, comedy magic. I
Hmm.
always liked magic growing up as
All
a
right.
kid, so I've got this whole routine where I can do
Mhm.
silly stuff,
Yeah.
and it's been a lot of fun. So that's kind of been my little the public education part of being a firefighter is
Hmm.
kind of been my little niche.
Right. So I remember being a kid and watching things like that. I remember being in elementary school and when the firefighters came through, especially if they had a dog.
Yeah, they don't allow it to happen anymore. Yeah,
Those sorts of
unfortunately.
things were like the greatest things ever. I remember uh these people would come and they had all of the Muppets, Jim Henson's Muppets, and they would put on little plays and shows for us and things. That was like the greatest thing in the world back then, you
That
know?
that is where after the clown stuff, I
Yeah.
I realized that. I couldn't do the makeup and stuff in uniform, right? It was just too much of a hassle. So I did start puppetry and
Uh-huh.
ventriloquism
Nice.
too. So I had a dragon. His name
Mhm.
was Dusty the Dragon, and he was really cool. He was back then he was $600. It was really
Wow.
expensive too. And he had a little aerosol can.
Uh-huh.
And so he'd blow
Nice.
smoke out of his nose. It
Yeah.
was so cool. And so I'd have, and he'd be talking and he'd flirt with the girls. And
Uh-huh.
I got to where I could kind of do some
Uh-huh.
ventriloquism. And
Uh-huh.
at first I sucked. And the kids
Right.
would be like, I can see your lips moving. I'm like, you're right. I suck. So, but I took that puppet into classrooms and
Right.
had a blast with it. And so, yes, I do puppets and ventriloquism
Yeah.
and stupid magic tricks and the whole thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and then it went into its own show after that.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that was fun.
I guess the point I'm trying to make there is just kind of the dichotomy of like what things were like when we were
Yeah.
kids and what they're like now. The things that they see and they're being exposed to are
Oh,
like just,
yeah. It used to be wholesome, right?
yeah,
Were you?
you know.
Did you grow up around here?
I grew up in Washington State,
Okay.
so
Here we had Wallace and Ladmo. So maybe your viewing audience, if you were in
mhm,
Arizona, you would know what
mhm,
Wallace and Ladmo was. And it was a every morning on Channel 5.
mhm,
It was a live show.
uh,
And so it was good and wholesome and
mhm,
now everything's all digital
right,
and so it was fun to do that with puppets and real people and real kids and I had my kids and they were free. I didn't have to
right,
pay them, right?
yeah.
uh and they weren't part of the actors union, so I didn't have to, I could overwork them and I never get in any
Right,
trouble. Beat them, do it
yeah,
again. But
yeah,
no, they had a blast, and that wholesome entertainment, something they could really learn. I
yeah,
again, I don't get me started.
yeah. Well,
Back in my day,
exactly.
yeah,
But like when I was a kid, I remember the things that kids would aspire to, or that what they thought were heroes, were firefighters, police officers, astronauts, and cowboys.
and
Those were heroes,
and
you know?
why is it not that way?
Yeah.
It still should be that
It
way.
still should be, because the thing I was just thinking about this, it's like the thing that all four of those have in common is you had to actually do work to become those things. It wasn't like starting an OnlyFans page or, just suddenly,
Doing a stupid
yeah,
TikTok dance
yeah,
or
or
whatever.
or whatever, and like all of a sudden now you're famous and you've got this huge following and you're probably making money. It's like you don't have to really be talented or put in effort anymore. You just sort of show up.
I agree, and I think that society as a whole, again, it's all about YOLO. It's what can I get out of this? You
Yeah.
all those things you listed off,
Hmm.
those are all pretty selfless,
Yeah.
uh, you know, pursuits,
Yeah.
and giving of yourself to help someone else,
Hmm.
and that seems more and more rare nowadays. But
Well, that's an excellent point because not only are they hard to like start and become, they are all service oriented. They're not doing this for themselves. They're
right.
doing this to protect and serve other people. So that makes a huge difference. And that's the things that we should find value in. And
And that's funny because in the way I understand it, TikTok in China
hmm.
is that way. It's more educational. It's
Hmm.
teaching people to be engineers and astronauts and help in sciences and stuff. But
Hmm.
the TikTok over here is all, booty dances and eating Tide Pods and doing stupid crap, lighting
Right.
yourself on fire.
Short attention span
It's
shit.
it's brilliant, because they're
Yeah.
they're they're destroying our country with TikTok, but they're,
Mhm.
strengthening theirs
Right.
with it over there.
So do you remember Schoolhouse Rock?
I do.
I loved that. I thought that was one of the greatest things, and I don't understand why they ever stopped doing it because I
Yeah,
learned more from that than I did from,
I
I
agree.
won't say from school, but
Right.
those that was teaching you things and ideas that you weren't getting necessarily someplace else,
Yeah,
you know?
I never got to watch TV
Mhm.
before, during the weekdays. TV was usually only on the weekends at my house. I was
Okay.
a very old-fashioned conservative, house. But yeah, just the thing about, sitting in front of TV on a Saturday morning eating a
Yeah.
bowl of cereal,
Right.
that was awesome.
Yeah.
And our kids nowadays just
Right.
don't know what that was like.
Also, and it was something cartoons like when I was a kid was like awesome, but it was even better because you only got to see it at certain times of day.
Right.
There was like a little half hour in like the afternoon. and there was Saturday mornings,
Yep.
and that's when you watched your cartoons. There wasn't Cartoon Network. There wasn't 300 channels you could just go find stuff on,
That's
and there
right.
wasn't YouTube where you could just go look something up. You
Well,
know?
and we used to play outside too,
Yeah.
right? Come home, come home when the lights come on, when the street lights come on.
Right.
And now it was like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
get out of the house. And
Yeah.
now it's like my grandkids, Papa, can we watch YouTube?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, no,
Yeah.
go outside and play.
Right. Yeah. That was the thing. It's like now, like whereas we were being told to like go outside and had no real accountability of what we were at or what we
Yeah,
were doing, right?
yeah,
Now I think that because there's so much, the media is always portraying this idea that the world is becoming more dangerous. And it's not to say that it isn't, but not in the same way that they're making it seem. It's like not every person you meet is out to like snatch your kid,
sure.
So like they've almost seemed like the reverse course. It's like now they're trying to keep their kids in rather than send them out, and I think that they're doing a disservice by doing that.
I would agree with you. I would say society is different too, because back then everybody watched out for everybody else
Hmm.
too.
Yeah.
And so although there was no accountability, it was like, okay, see you at dinner time. And
Yeah.
we'd play until the streetlights came on and be like, oh crap, I gotta get home for dinner.
Right.
But parents would kind of watch out for everybody else's
Yeah.
kids too. Shoot, back in my day, there were no backyard fences.
Right.
We would run through everybody's yards, and now you can't do that. Now you could live next to somebody and not even know your neighbors, let
Right.
alone in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's a different deal. So yeah, I don't know if I'd let my kids probably run as wild as my parents let me run around either, but
Yeah.
I do make them go outside and play in the
Right.
backyard and
Hmm.
go play in the mud, go build some stuff, go,
Yeah.
whatever, for
Do,
sure.
do stuff,
Do stuff.
explore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Climb fences, climb
Yeah.
trees.
Use some imagination. Quit sitting there like a
Yeah.
zombie in front of a video game
Hmm.
or TV.
Yeah. So, um, but that's the kid show is like now gone.
It's still we haven't actively done anything for a long time.
Mm.
Because we relied strictly on the department wasn't didn't give us money for it. So
Mhm.
we had a great person who would find grants,
Mhm.
and she would write grants for us. And then we actually had finally got enough money to get a set in the city
Right.
in the city videography place. They just took it down after
Hmm.
years of it sitting up, not just collecting dust.
Yeah.
But we had a set. We started the first show. We had plastic
Hmm.
with held up with duct tape, and it was so rinky dink. But
Right.
I would come up with the idea. We would come up with the idea. I would write the script, and then I would give it to Stacy, and she'd block it all out and have the different camera angles, and learned how to do lighting. And we started from nothing,
Right.
literally, and then went into having a set, having a sound person, lights, and I was really proud with the end
Hmm.
of our production quality
Right.
towards the end there, and graphics, and Stacy's amazing.
Hmm.
But she's gone up and now is the department of her, head of her department.
Right.
I, gotten old and grouchy now. I don't even think I'd fit into my clown clothes. But and my kids have gotten older now, so there's we just kind of stopped doing it. But the shows are still playing
Yeah.
on our city channel, and I don't know where else. But
Right.
it's even I know it's good
Yeah.
because when I show it to kids, even at elementary schools now, they are glued to it. And
Right.
so it's colorful, it's got puppets, it's got real people. It's
Right.
not just digital. It is interesting because I have had a lot of experience going into classrooms and teaching kids and engaging them and seeing how they learn and what it piques their interest. And
Hmm.
that's still that old school, real people still piques their interest better
Yeah.
than a 100% digital creation.
Right. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, do people even watch Sesame Street anymore? Is that on?
I don't even know.
Huh.
With my grandkids, no. I think it's still on Channel 8. I think it's still on there on PBS, but yeah, not
Because that was another thing that I really loved just watching
great.
was the Muppets, and the Electric Company.
The Electric Company.
The Electric Company was because it was all like this learning, but it was interesting.
It
It
was
made it
learning.
entertaining.
Yes.
you know.
There's yes.
So
Snuffleupagus,
yes.
Big Bird. If you don't
Hmm.
know who those people are, I'm sorry. You
You
suck.
missed out.
Yeah, you missed out. Oscar the Grouch.
Oscar the Grouch was awesome.
Awesome.
um, so like I know that you also, aside from just like your career with as a firefighter and the things that you've the projects and things that you've done, you do other things I wouldn't say as a job per se, but you're definitely in the sphere of like being prepared.
Yes.
And so can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh my gosh. Much to my wife's chagrin,
Uh-huh.
I've got a lot of different irons in the fire. Maybe it's some ADD or something, but
Uh-huh.
I have a lot of interests. I always have.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, and growing up as a Boy Scout with a dad who, taught Boy Scouts, was a scoutmaster for 15 years,
Hmm.
going out and doing the hiking and the camping and fire starting and,
Hmm.
that was always ingrained into me in an early age, and I enjoyed the outdoors. Um, as as I learned jujitsu, I enjoyed as much as I cherish my accomplishments, my even
Hmm.
my world titles. I'll tell you, I get as much joy
Hmm.
from helping other people develop their game and learn the art and the sport and
Right.
succeed and
Hmm.
win competitions as much as winning a world title.
Right.
I love teaching people. I love educating people,
Yeah.
not just because it strokes my own little ego, but because I feel like it's worthwhile. I
Yeah.
like to learn and I like to see people learn.
Right.
And so I am a firearms instructor,
Hmm.
along with, teaching the jujitsu.
Hmm.
Uh, so I teach pistol, shotgun, rifle,
Hmm.
tactical rifle. I'm learning long range shooting now. I would not instruct anybody else because I suck
Right.
and I'm trying to learn myself. But it's fun. I've accumulated all this knowledge
Hmm.
over the years, and it's like, well, shoot, I probably ought to help other people learn.
Yeah.
It's almost, I don't know if it's a dying, information is dying because it's all on YouTube, but
Right.
I I I grew up in a very conservative uh, LDS or Mormon household,
Hmm.
and with the history of that religion, they were persecuted in the
Right.
early days of the nation. In fact, they were run out of Missouri and those states and pushed west, and they were the ones who actually came and
Hmm.
colonized the Utah and the
Right.
western United States. So they're very much into a year supply of food.
Hmm.
Growing up, we always did that, and canning and being self reliant, right?
Hmm.
And so that was instilled into me in an early age. And with COVID happening and people go making runs on toilet paper and
Right.
taking shelves out and natural disasters, I think it's the wisdom of that way of thinking has been proven,
Hmm.
and I personally feel that it's only going to get worse. So yeah, being self-reliant, being the prepper kind of, I
Hmm.
guess sometimes I think people give that a negative connotation, like
Yeah.
you're freaking, tinfoil hat loony bird, you know, cabin in the middle of the woods, which sounds awesome, by the way, but
Yeah.
you don't have to be a cuckoo bird to be self-reliant and to prepare for something bad that happens.
Hmm.
So I freeze dry my own food. I stockpile water and ammunition and gun. I don't have any,
Of course not.
but but if I were to, I
Mhm.
would be smart about how I would, prepare for, a horrible event where I would need to
Right.
protect myself and my family, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Um, and then part of what I do in my church now is I am a preparedness specialist.
Yeah.
And so I
Nice.
help other people, figure out how to grow food in a small footprint
Hmm.
using aquaponics or hydroponics.
Hmm.
Um, how to prepare that food, how to not prepare it, how to make it last, how
Hmm.
to
Preserve
freeze
it.
dry it or there it is, preserve
Hmm.
it, and whether it's dehydrating or freeze drying or
Hmm.
keeping that type of food, and then just having a plan to protect your loved ones,
Hmm.
um, in case something bad happens. I have a lot of
Right.
people like, oh, you can't wait for the zombie apocalypse to
Right.
come, right? And I'm
Right.
like, bro, I hope I never have to use
Yeah.
all the stuff I have. I would love for it just to go bad,
Hmm.
50 years from now.
Right.
But God forbid something does happen.
Hmm.
I'm not going to watch my children or my grandchildren starve
Yeah.
or go without because I didn't prepare.
Right.
And so, no, so it's that
Yeah.
I've always kind of been that Papa Bear,
Right.
mentality.
Hmm.
Even on the fire department as an engineer, I like to, you're in that supportive role for your guys. You're getting them tools and you're taking care of them and setting them up for success. And
Hmm.
that's what I try to do with my family, my kids, my grandchildren, to
Hmm.
set them up for success and
Right.
help them be successful and help people learn. And whether it's jujitsu or firearms or preparation,
Hmm.
I want people to take control of your success.
Right.
uh, Relinquishing your control to your government, like your government's going to come help you
Yeah.
or your church is going to come help you. Good luck with that. I think the track record's not been
Hmm.
particularly great if people are old enough to remember Katrina
Right.
and how horrible the government response was on that, and
Hmm.
people that were living in, I mean, the bad things that were happening in that Coliseum. What was it? Was it St. Louis?
I'm not sure.
There was a football stadium
Right.
there where everybody went, and it was just run by gangs, and there were
Hmm.
rapes and killings and stuff that didn't really get out there in the public, and martial law, and it was a mess.
Right.
And
So I've talked about
it's
this
happened in the
before
past.
on the show, that there is a very thin veneer of civility that exists. And as long as everything is going mostly well,
Yeah.
that stays in place, right?
Mhm.
But when you see events like that, where Katrina, the BLM riots, just any number of other catastrophic events, hurricanes,
Baltimore
hurricanes,
burned.
yeah,
A lot of those riots from those police involved, people
hmm,
dying in police custody. Just riots, and
hmm,
yeah, it doesn't have to be a natural disaster anymore. It
right,
just happens. Yeah, it can happen anytime. Shoot, when that BLM stuff was happening, and there was stuff that was happening downtown Scottsdale
hmm,
and Phoenix,
yeah,
I had a lot of people call me up, "Hey, buddy,
yeah,
you got any ammunition, or
right,
you have a gun I could borrow?" And so these are these, you know, left-leaning,
right,
liberally
hmm,
people
right,
who all of a sudden maybe weren't quite so liberal
hmm,
and thought maybe having a handgun was a good idea. And I did. I was helpful. I tried to be,
hmm,
but times are times are different now. It's kind of
right,
like, hey, bro, you had your chance. I'm not going to go out of my way to.
right,
Is that bad for me as I feel bad as a person for, because I am very helpful. I
right,
want to help other people, but I think we're to the point now where it's like, hey, if you haven't seen the
yeah,
writing on the wall and you haven't done anything to protect
hmm,
yourself,
right,
you're going to
right,
be on your own because I'm going to be busy taking care of mine.
right. So we had talked about this the last time,
Hmm.
or I should say, the first time you were on the
Hmm.
podcast, right? The the whole thing with COVID and how that resulted and how people reacted to
Right.
it. And we had talked then, and this was like at least a year ago, saying that we hoped that people learned some lesson, and it doesn't appear that they have. It's like
It doesn't.
they're so quick to forget all of these things. And using Katrina as another example,
Yeah.
it's like that's it happened, and there's no guarantee that it isn't going to happen again. Natural disasters, so like the riots and things like that, we can more or less control that. So if we
Right.
learn to control ourselves as people, but nature has its own fucking ideas about what's happening, right?
Absolutely.
And there are floods and hurricanes and tornadoes and all kinds of things that cause devastation in people's lives. And the whole idea of being a tinfoil hat wearing person because you're trying to be prepared for those sort of things
Right.
or whatever else may come,
How does it have a negative
yeah,
connotation?
it's like, you know, when everybody else is drowning and you're in your lifeboat, eating a Snickers,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
who's the smart one now? You
Exactly.
know?
And I'm not being fatalistic. I don't
Yeah.
feel like I am. I'd prepare for the worst, hope for the
Yeah.
best, kind of a thing. That's me. I would consider I'm a Christian.
Mhm.
All right. I've dedicated my life to helping other people.
Mhm.
I'm willing to lay my life down for others in my occupation.
Right.
I took a lot of crap during COVID because I wasn't buying the stuff that was the propaganda that was out there,
Mhm.
right? About the mask wearing and the shots, and we didn't really know.
Right.
I remember that was a weird time in my career
Mhm.
where nobody called 911 for like 2 weeks.
Wow.
We were sitting in the stations. We didn't have anything to do. We weren't really allowed to go. We didn't know it. It was early on. We didn't know if we were going to get it and die. I didn't know if
Mhm.
I was going to go into a person that had it and take it home and kill my family. I really didn't know, but I just stuff wasn't adding up with what I was seeing on the news, and they were saying these hospitals were overridden,
Mhm.
with people, and I was looking at the ERs and they were ghost towns, and,
Mhm.
and so it just wasn't adding up for me personally.
Mhm.
And as time went on, I was questioning stuff, and then I'm a conspiracy theorist, and then I'm a denier, right? A
Mhm.
science denier, and I took a lot of crap on social media where I'm like, hey, wait a second, what's going on? You're you're just a this and that, and I was called a lot of names, and to find out that a lot of the crap I was beating my chest has turned out to be true.
Right.
Now Fauci's come out and said that, oh well, we just came up with a 6 foot rule, pulled it out of our butt.
Yeah.
It was not based on science. That masks, unless you were wearing a brand new N95 each time, that it wasn't
Right.
helping you out like they suggested it
Mhm.
was. That now that the federal, Florida's attorney general, and all these scientists and doctors are saying that this
Mhm.
jab should be taken off the market, and that it
Right.
wasn't what they said it was. It's contaminated with millions of particles of other people's DNA that who knows what
Mhm.
could happen. And now finally the VAERS stuff with the injury reporting that came out
Mhm.
from it, it's not what they said it was. It first, I'm old enough to remember that they said that if you took that pharmaceutical injection that
Mhm.
you wouldn't get it. Then, oh well, yeah, it's 90% effective, and then it went down to 70 and 60 and 30, and then it was like, oh, it'll maybe for 14 days or maybe
Mhm.
for 7 days, and you get your boosters,
Mhm.
right? And it just wasn't adding up for me.
Right.
And so I was one of those people that had to weather that storm,
Mhm.
that conspiracy theorist, tinfoil hat, cuckoo bird person. But am I vindicated because a lot of what I thought is coming true? I still am not happy. It's not like,
Mhm.
yes, I was right.
Mhm.
I still have more, just I'm sad that
Yeah.
so many people were duped, and that we
Right.
have a government and an organization that is so willing to lie
Yeah.
and just to sound smart or to sound like they know what's going on.
Mhm.
That 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 frustrates me. So I don't
Right.
know where I was going with this, but
Right.
I think it comes back to I took a lot of heat for
Mhm.
not being empathetic to other people, or that I was a bad Christian because I wasn't willing to help other people. Bro, I was out there. I was
Mhm.
out there literally putting my life on the line, not knowing what was going on and doing it. So don't come to me and preach to me
Right.
that I'm some knucklehead that,
Mhm.
I put myself out there, right?
Right.
And I continue to do it. And I would sacrifice. I every time I carry a concealed weapon, I'm willing to put my life on the line for somebody who I've never even met to
Right.
do the right thing. So don't preach to me who's who's virtue signaling and who's this or that,
Mhm.
and make me sound out to be a bad guy, because I believe in humanity. I think that life is important, and that's why
Right.
I teach other people and want to help other people. It's not
Yeah.
so it's that pisses me off when I
Mhm.
took a lot of that heat early on. But it is good to see that truth is coming out.
Mhm.
That but I think nowadays with the TikTok and everything else, people have such a short memory,
Right.
and it's to the next news cycle, it's to the next whatever. I see it in myself. If I'm sitting alone at a stop sign, a stoplight, just for a sec, I got to feed my brain, right?
Mhm.
I think we're so consumed with new and whatever that we
Yeah.
get distracted so easily that we don't remember that people went for toilet paper,
Hmm.
during COVID, and that shelves that were empty, and how fragile our supply chain is,
Hmm.
and now with the borders being open, completely wide open, and we
Right.
have millions of people. I just read the other day that there were more people that came in the United States through our
Hmm.
southern border than were born in the United States.
Right.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And we have no freaking clue who these people are.
Yeah.
In my opinion, in the next year, I know that it might be unpopular because Trump just said it,
Hmm.
but in the next year, we will have some kind of a domestic terrorism threat on our
Yeah.
soil. God forbid it's our antiquated electrical grid system on the western United States that
Hmm.
could go down at any time.
Hmm.
Some person goes into a field and injects a chemical into a field full of watermelon
Hmm.
and kills a bunch of people or babies, God forbid,
Right.
what will happen when
Hmm.
our food supply is attacked, or our water supply or our power grid? People, I think there's still a large percentage of the population that thinks that if the power were to go out, that water would still come out of our taps,
Right.
which it doesn't work that way,
Yeah.
you know? So good luck
Yeah.
looking up on YouTube
Uh-huh.
how to purify water when the power's out
Right.
and YouTube's down.
And by the way, we live in a desert here.
Yeah. Kind of a big deal. Water is
Right.
kind of a big deal. So
Uh-huh.
for all those people that think, well, and I have people that have said, bro, it's okay. I if it all goes to hell, I'm just gonna come to your house and take yours.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Good
good
luck with
luck with
that.
that,
Right.
because I'm a pretty good shot. And if I had ammunition, I'd have a lot of it.
Right.
So
There you go.
good luck with that.
Yeah.
So surround yourself with like-minded people.
Hmm.
I think that's
Yeah.
where that's why we get along so good,
Uh-huh.
is because we see eye to eye on a lot of these things. I'm sure a lot of your viewership too.
Right.
But just even if you don't buy off on it, come look around,
Yeah.
see what's going on.
Right.
You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out we are going down
Hmm.
not a very good road.
Yeah, definitely.
And chances are it's probably going to get worse before it gets better.
Right.
What are you doing?
Hmm.
What are you doing to get ready for it?
Uh-huh.
You don't have to be a cuckoo bird. How
Yeah.
about you just start somewhere? How about
Hmm.
you go and get a firearm to protect yourself and your family? Come to some place like the training center here.
Hmm.
Take a class,
Right.
you know. Uh, Start, instead of watching TikTok videos, get a YouTube premium membership. Okay. First of all, I don't like how YouTube's run,
Uh-huh.
the politics of it, but I
Right.
do own the premium membership so that I can listen to YouTube videos without having the screen open. So I
Right.
use it like a podcast.
Hmm.
I'm learning.
Hmm.
I'm learning. I'm trying to just, dude, I can't remember what I had for breakfast. So I'm trying to learn different as I get older.
Right.
I'm trying to, I could listen to music
Hmm.
or I could learn something on
Right.
the way to work.
Hmm.
How about a different method on how to store solar energy? How to
Right.
make your own solar controller or solar battery pack?
Right.
How to make a furnace out of used motor oil? I just watched that one last night.
Oh,
It's pretty
nice.
cool.
Very
So
cool.
I've got all this used motor oil.
Hmm.
Luckily, we live in a desert, but in
Yeah.
some places that are cold, you can actually make furnaces that burn used motor oil.
Yeah.
They're
Really.
freaking cool.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So to touch on something that you said earlier,
Yeah. Sorry, that was
no,
long-winded.
no, no, that was great. But uh, you said something about, it isn't that you're trying to be right, right? And this is where I find myself. I don't want to be right.
Right.
What I want is accountability. I want the government and all these different government agencies and all of the whatever that's in charge, you know, the big tech organizations that are running everything, apparently, I want them to be accountable for the things that are happening. You know,
I
it
agree.
it really drives me nuts that like an event like COVID would happen. Okay, so we're going to go through this timeline. COVID happens. There's all this, obviously now they're proving
Hmm.
disinformation is completely incorrect, saying that, if you get the shot, you were 100% immune, and not only that, you can't pass it on to anybody else.
Yep.
Rachel Maddow was out there
Oh
just
yeah.
pounding the pavement,
Fact.
yeah,
Fact.
yeah,
How dare you question the
right.
science? Yeah.
And just all of this information that they kept putting out, and the 6 foot rule and wearing masks and everything else, it's like that was obviously wrong, and they were saying it anyway. When it proves that they were lying or they were just making shit up,
Hmm.
there's no accountability,
No accountability.
no nothing,
Well,
no
that's what it is,
repercussions for
right? The
anything.
only accountability seems to only be happening on one side right now,
Yeah.
right? I mean, there's only one side of the aisle that's in court right now,
Hmm.
trying to, getting the book thrown at him for saying that he didn't have sex with some woman, 20 years ago.
Right.
Uh, the only people that are, it seems to me,
Hmm.
the only people that are fighting for their rights in court are people that were at January 6th,
Hmm.
people that were outside and, expressing freedom of speech. Now, granted, the people that broke the law and assaulted cops back on January, they deserve to be in jail.
Hmm.
Okay. I feel that I try to check myself on my politics and my
Hmm.
views
Right.
all the time, right? To make sure that I'm on the right side.
Hmm.
Same thing that I did back in COVID,
Hmm.
right? What's going on? Just asking some questions. Why are they trying to shut down these other possibilities
Hmm.
of ivermectin and hydrochlor? Why did they try and crucify Joe Rogan?
Hmm.
What if it worked?
Right.
But man, they went after him and they were shutting people down and
Hmm.
kicking them off of your and attacking.
Hmm.
Where's the accountability with that? That had they just gone and said, "Hey, look, we're not really sure what the hell's going on right
Hmm.
now. This is our best bet.
Hmm.
We're not really, if they were just honest about it instead of presenting it as fact,
Hmm.
and that you're an idiot for questioning the fact and the science, and then had they just done that, I would have given them a lot more credibility.
Right.
Or even nowadays, say, hey, we went off our best guess at the time,
Hmm.
and it turned out to be wrong. That helps with their credibility.
Right.
There's no accountability, but their credibility is absolutely shot.
Right.
So the next time it goes around, you think I'm going to trust you again?
Right.
You're, you're, forget you, man.
But what frightens me is the people that lived through that experience, who heard all the
I'm
information,
like,
now understand that it's false, will still
still,
listen to those exact same news organizations and media, and shake their heads when they hear information. It's like, if I really, really wish that there was a requirement that before every single one of those broadcasts,
uh,
and I know they do it like when they're introducing the show,
right.
but before every single segment, this should say presented by Pfizer, the pharmaceutical companies,
Uh,
big tech organizations, whatever,
every
whoever is
commercial,
paying for
it
that,
still is. Yeah. But,
it's
yeah.
like everything you hear out of these people's mouths, understand that it's
Right.
coming from those organizations, and not legitimate news.
Special interest groups are running this country right now, and again, no accountability. We have no accountability from the botched pullout from Afghanistan.
Hmm.
We have no accountability for the handling of COVID.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't is if we put this on YouTube, can I say that word?
Yes.
Uh, you know, Dr. Fauci, who was presenting stuff as fact,
Hmm.
no accountability there.
Hmm.
Don't even get me started with the freaking Epstein client list and
Right.
and all these Adam Schiff, who now we've got that Hunter's lap. The DOJ finally did say, yeah, Hunter's laptop was real. What about those 50 high-level FBI agents that signed off on it that said it was? How come there's no accountability there? Adam
Hmm.
Schiff, who was touting that, Russian collusion for
Right.
years, and
Yeah.
all that BS
Hmm.
has now been proven, but nope. So what? They're
Yeah.
not scared to talk something they pull right out of their butt
Right.
because they know there's no accountability,
Hmm.
and people still eat it up. I think this whole society of identity politics and that people can't admit when they're wrong
Hmm.
is the culprit. I think people
Right.
don't want to have to admit that they were wrong or
Hmm.
that they were duped. I'm too smart for that.
Right.
I didn't fall for it.
So,
So they won't say that Rachel Maddow. I listened to Rachel Maddow and she tricked me.
right.
Okay, well, so what? Freaking get over it.
Hmm.
You got tricked.
Yeah.
Wake up.
Learn from that and
Learn
do
from
something
it.
else. Yeah.
Right. Oh, no, she what she meant was,
Yeah.
oh, you don't, why do you, I'm wrong all the time. It's okay. Like, that's my kids and my wife, anybody who knows me.
Yeah,
I'm never wrong. Just so
of
you
course not.
I'm the
Um,
smartest guy I know
there you go. When you're all by yourself.
when I'm by myself.
There you go.
Yeah.
Another big one is the whole thing that's happening on the border of Texas right now. So the government's not doing what it should be to protect the border. They're just allowing people to come in. Texas said, okay, well, if you're not going to do it, we're going to just do it
Hmm.
ourselves. Then the federal government says you can't do that and sues them, goes to the Supreme Court and says you can't interfere with what we're doing. We're not doing anything,
Right.
but you can't interfere with it. Okay, we're not. Well, there's a dereliction of duty in place, but you're not allowed to step in and do what we're not.
Right. Unbelievable.
How does
It's
that work?
mind boggling. I think that, like you said, with mainstream media has lost all credibility. That's why I don't really listen to them. I don't listen to Fox either.
Mm,
Just so you know, because they're owned by big tech and
yeah.
pharmaceutical companies too. So I
Hmm.
think I think they're suspect as well.
Hmm.
I try to now with podcasts,
Hmm.
I try to balance where I get it from because I don't want to be one of these blind sheep
Right.
that go even if it um val- v- validifies what
Validates.
validates.
Okay.
Say I speak good or English.
Yeah.
Even if it validates what I want to believe, I
Hmm.
want to make sure that I'm not one of these blind sheep going down the wrong path.
Right.
That I'm open to other options or possibilities, so I
Hmm.
don't get blindsided, right?
Hmm.
So I was listening to a podcast and oh man, what he is I think he's in the House of Representatives.
Nick Freitas.
Is that it?
Yeah. He's
And
a delegate for which one?
making the argument.
Yeah. Yeah. Nick
Yeah.
Freitas.
So I was listening to him the other day. And I was really freaking pissed off that
Uh-huh.
with these Supreme Court justices ruled this way, and he's like, hold on.
Hmm.
They actually, when I read their reports and what they were ruling on,
Hmm.
he's like, they did the right thing.
Right.
How big of balls do you have to actually have to go against what the MAGA ultra right is? Those justices.
Right.
He actually did the work,
Yeah.
read the stuff,
Hmm.
and said no, they were ruling on specific things in the Constitution, and they got it right.
Yeah.
Uh, Now, the way that the federal government's handling the border is wrong, and
Right.
it is creating a constitutional crisis right
Hmm.
now that needs to be addressed. So I think even the right, we get so caught up on
Hmm.
they're turncoats or they're rhinos or what. Let's look at everything here
Right.
first and see what the possibilities are, because the left sure is so narrow-minded and they will not even look at any possibilities. So I want to make sure that I don't make that same mistake, so that I'm not the thing that I hate.
Right.
I don't want to be a hypocrite, right? I try really hard not to be. So it was great. I try to listen to different perspectives and different people so that I feel like I have a better understanding of
Right.
what's going on. So that was very educational for me and
Hmm.
changed my mindset a little bit. But if you're just listening to CNN or MSNBC or just Fox, I think it's a dangerous thing,
Yeah.
especially right now when there's so much BS
Hmm.
and misinformation out there.
Right.
Just
So it's really easy for people to get locked into wanting to defend their side because, like you said, nobody wants to be wrong.
no,
It's like, and this is kind of a crass point, but when somebody steps in dog shit, nobody wants to admit it.
right.
And it isn't because, the dog shit is harmful to them somehow. It's more harmful to their ego to say, I was dumb enough to step in
Yeah,
it.
I can't believe I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But rather than say that, they say, oh, I didn't do it. That wasn't me,
Yeah.
because you can clearly smell it. Somebody did it. So, you know, so
Why?
the,
Why? Yeah. Why is that? I mean, are people so insecure that they can't admit that they
yeah, they
were
just don't want to look
did?
foolish.
Yeah.
You know,
So what, dude?
Same thing though.
Get
Like
over yourself.
when people are divided as heavily as they are right now onto political sides, right? And they say that if you're on the right, you don't want to be wrong in any way because you don't want to give the other side any justification, right? So for Nick Freitas to say that, you know, that like you said, that's a huge
It
deal,
was, yeah,
because he's saying that the decisions that they came to were correct. It isn't just, they're against us or they're trying to like, support the evil empire of
right,
Biden, you know. But that's not the end of the story either. There are other parts to this. There is a dereliction of duty that is
right.
in place. We have to address that, and that hasn't been addressed at all.
No,
Okay, so that's a whole other piece of the puzzle. Okay, so it's important that you understand that you actually do the work, understand history, understand what's going on, the real truth of what's happening, not just what you're being fed on mainstream media, and understand what's going on. And for lack of a better, just you know,
you got to wade through the piles of
yeah,
dog shit
yeah,
to to figure out what's real. And oh man, it's getting scarier and scarier now because of all the now with the AI.
yeah,
Don't even get me started. AI and the fake stuff that is going out there, and that they can you got you got people that can sample your a certain number of words, and they can call these people's parents, say, "Mom, I'm broken down. Send me money here," and it's not their kid. I mean,
right,
that's some scary stuff.
yeah,
So I I I I just hope that podcasts like what you have here, people can stay educated. Um, it's good to be around people that are like-minded, but
hmm
don't, in my opinion, I don't want to be so wrapped up in
right,
my little cocoon of group that I can't see possibilities that are outside.
right,
Had I not listened to Nick Freitas, I wouldn't have thought that, okay, well, maybe there is
hmm
another, maybe they did get the ruling right
hmm
instead of, oh, they ruled against us. How dare we need to get rid of them?
right,
That's a dangerous, you know,
and mindset.
mindset that to fall into. And I
hmm
think people are so quick that yeah, they
hmm
latch onto, and I'm guilty of it.
hmm
I'll one little tidbit on Instagram or whatever, and oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, I validated myself, and I latch onto that one little thing instead of taking the time to look into it a little bit more. Maybe it's not so cut and dry.
Yeah, like I
Excuse
said,
me.
my biggest point is I don't want to be right. I just want people that have jobs to do those jobs the way they're supposed to be, defend the Constitution, you know, actually do what the Constitution says and not just work with it when it fits your
Right.
needs and completely ignore it when it doesn't. And unfortunately, in the administration that we have right now, that's exactly what they're doing.
I Yeah, and the scary thing is too that and I've bounced around from different candidates that are coming up here, like, oh yeah, I like DeSantis, or
Mhm,
oh, Nikki Haley, yeah, she's man, have I been wrong? I've bounced around too. Like,
mhm,
okay, well, I think DeSantis is kind of a poser. Nikki Haley, I think she is more of a at this point, in my opinion, I think she's more of a Democrat
right?
and a warmongering, totally,
Mhm,
institutional Republican that I think has lost their way. And man, until we can get, it's not like I'm a huge Trump fan. I kind of think the guy's a bit of a goofball and a clown. He can be a clown too, but who else is going to get in there and really change some stuff up? Him or Vivek, who are billionaires that can say screw you to these big money and not just I I don't I think there's a lot of people that get into politics for pure reason. Like they
mhm,
really want to be public servants. They want to make a difference.
mhm,
But I just don't know how many can get up to that high level without making deals with the devil and being behoovant
mhm,
to other organizations and people to get to that level. And then I think that in their hearts they think, okay, once I get there, then I can really make the difference. But they chip away at sell their soul little bit by
right.
little bit, and what's really left to really make that change. And I just feel that that the little guy like me, is not being represented in federal politics anymore.
Right.
And so I think Vivek's got it right where a lot of these people, it really, obviously, with the current president that we have, I don't think he's making any decisions other than what flavor ice cream the guy wants.
Right.
It's run by his cabinet and all these other people
Yeah.
and bureaucrats that have been in the FBI, been in the DOJ for 50 years that have tremendous amount of power
Hmm.
in the Bureau of Land Management, whether veteran affairs, all these government organizations that are not elected positions.
Hmm.
They were appointed, they weren't elected by anybody,
Right.
and have been in that position for 50 years and have wielded tremendous power.
Hmm.
Those are the ones that are running our country. Do you think that they have our best interests in mind?
Nope.
Hell no,
Just follow the money.
dude. And it hurts my heart. It hurts my heart as a patriot
Right.
that we have these people making these decisions for us,
Hmm.
the American people, and uh, I part of the reason why the prepping and the preparation is such a big deal is I I hate to be fatalistic, but I just think that our country is in some real big trouble right now, and I think it's going to get worse. And I think if you're not learning how to purify water, how to prepare food, how to store, what to do in case your power goes out. How long do you have, before food starts going bad? Are you have any type of generator, or whether it's a solar generator, a gas generator, a way to cook food?
Hmm.
It wouldn't take a lot to
Right.
throw this country into turmoil.
Hmm.
I think we give ourselves too much credit
Right.
because it's never happened before. But
Right.
uh, I'm really nervous.
So I understand that viewpoint, but I'm still focusing on, or I guess I choose to focus more on what we can be doing to help make it better. So obviously I have the podcast here. This is one of my ways of reaching out to people and trying to get them to think differently, understand
Which is
that
awesome.
there's something else,
Yes,
there's more you could be doing. And that just because something bad happened in your life doesn't mean your life ended. You can still keep going.
sure.
Um, I ultimately would love to have to form an academy that's it's basically a mentorship for like young men to teach them
It's
to like
funny. I've thought the same thing.
be better and stronger and be critical thinkers and you know those sorts of things. I think that needs to exist in our education system where it doesn't right now. We need to have schools that focus on those things. Critical thinking is a major part of that.
That's some
Same.
tinfoil hat stuff you're
Oh
talking
yeah,
about right now.
little things like
Wait, so are you suggesting that maybe like 5, 6 years ago they would introduce this term toxic masculinity? What? Get
right.
out of here.
Yeah.
That being a masculine man would be a bad thing?
Right.
Oh, dare you? You're crazy.
The just little things like saying the Pledge of Allegiance and actually being proud of this country
Yeah.
and proud to be a part of it. That's something that's
I'm old
missing.
enough to remember where, yeah, that we're not going to fly the American flag because it's triggering. Huh?
Yeah.
What? When the big bad orange man is talking about national pride, and
Hmm.
oh, that's nationalist, that's bad. Huh? When was being proud to be an American a bad thing?
Right.
Just yesterday, Ilhan Omar. Are you kidding me? Did you watch what she just said? She just got up there and she was speaking in Somali. And hey, I'm all for your pride in
Hmm.
your heritage. Okay, I have friends that are Polynesian and Hawaiian, awesome. Hispanic, Mexican, awesome. You know, Eastern European, awesome. I'm all for it. But she was talking about I'm Somali first, and I'll take care of my people. And I'm like, this is an elected official
Right.
in the House. She's in the House of Representatives, right?
Hmm.
I think so.
I believe so.
I hope she's not a congressperson, but um, you know, just basically saying that her allegiance go first off with a group of people that are outside the United States.
Right.
is just mind blowing to me that we have people in our government that are not putting U.S. citizens first.
Right.
Drives me bonkers
And she's openly anti-Semitic.
openly.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So, and again, I still take a lot of heat because I am against open borders and that I somehow am a bad Christian and I'm not empathetic to people that are fleeing their countries because of, they want a better life. I'm absolutely empathetic.
Hmm.
I probably more than most. I've seen these people. I've dealt with these people professionally
Right.
that are, in these safe houses that are just in horrible conditions where we call out ICE. This is 10 years ago.
Hmm.
Call out ICE and they're like, nah, turn them loose. And that was before they were welding the gates open like they are
Right.
now. But to think that I'm not empathetic to these people's plight is just not true. But
Hmm.
two things can be true at once, right? I can have
Right.
empathy for my fellow man, but I can also be proud to be an American. I want to protect
Right.
my interests as an American. So for somebody to suggest that a that a person that isn't American can get a job as a law enforcement officer in California, carry a gun,
Right.
and enforce the laws of my nation over me, but you're not an American citizen, that makes my mind melt. Cannot, I cannot believe it.
Right.
It just drives me bonkers. And I hope it's not just because I'm old and grouchy, but
Yeah.
we got to wake up.
Hmm. I definitely do. So I think that we've covered a lot, you know. And so typically I would ask for like your best dad advice, but I think in a lot of ways we've just been giving it,
Yeah.
right? So instead I'll ask for like what's one of your best dad jokes?
Why isn't your nose 12 inches long?
Mm.
Because then it would be a foot.
There you go.
I know it's not my best.
So my favorite one so far
Yeah.
is why did the spoon go to the dinner party dressed as a knife?
Why?
The invitation said, look sharp.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, and that's what I mean. I know I post a lot of conspiracy theorist stuff on social media, but I try to post a lot of jokes
You
and
do,
and
you
and
know.
and keep it light too, because although I can be a serious guy,
Hmm.
I love life. I love laughing. I am a clown,
Right.
I, and so yes, the dad jokes and enjoying life. Um, One thing for sure that I have seen over the years is that life is fleeting. I see bad things happen to good people all the time.
Hmm.
Good people that kiss their wife goodbye, send their kids to school, and the guy's just driving his car to work and gets blasted by a semi truck and he's
Hmm.
he's dead. And to say that I don't have empathy, where I'm the guy that has had to go into that person and tell them that their loved ones passed away,
Hmm.
um, that is not an awesome thing. And to have empathy for that person and to see the importance in how fleeting life is. And so I'm all about learning,
Hmm.
improving your life instead of just sitting and complaining about it.
Right.
And not taking responsibility. Yeah, you mean we know a lot of people that have had a lot of bad stuff happen to them, but they
Hmm.
don't sit and bitch about it. They
Right.
pull themselves up, make their lives better, learn from it, like we've talked about. Um, but just to enjoy every life,
Hmm.
or I'm sorry, every day. Um, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said, "Hey, so if I gave you this check for $10 million,
Yeah.
you've heard this one, right?
Right.
Is there anything for the rest of the day that could ruin your day? No,
No.
no. It would be great. There's nothing that anybody could do or say or social media could call you a name or whatever that would ruin your day. You'd have a wonderful day. But the caveat is that you cannot wake up tomorrow morning.
Hmm.
Would you still take the money? Hell no. So, can you
Right.
put a price tag on each day?
Right.
And I'm fortunate, or some would say unfortunate, because I do get to see the good and the bad
Hmm.
with life and And that's where I take some comfort in knowing that I can help other people and make a difference on the worst day of their life, and to come in and help them.
Hmm.
Um, but love your family,
Hmm.
love your life, enjoy it, because it's
Right.
freaking awesome.
Yeah.
You know, what a wonderful gift,
Hmm.
our brains are, and our bodies, that we can do jujitsu and
Right.
choke our best buddies out, and give I gave this dude a wet willy the other day, and it's just awesome that I can. It's one thing to submit him, but to give a grown man a wet willy,
Right.
oh, so good,
Right.
and laugh about it, right? And to know that he would do the same thing,
Yeah.
and to hug afterwards, and to build that bond with other people,
Hmm.
to take care of your family, even if you're called a conspiracy theorist or a tinfoil hat wearing crazy SOB, to um, learn skills that can potentially protect my loved ones and my friends, and we can do it together.
Hmm.
Oh man, that's what it's all about, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And
Right.
so I know you didn't ask for dad advice, but I gave it anyways, because that's what a
There you
dad
go.
would do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Still got
There you go. All right.
it. Love you, man.
I love you too. And
I don't love you. No, I love you too. I'm just kidding. Talking crap behind the computer.
right on.
Thanks for
So
having me.
absolutely. I love having you. I love talking with you. So
You're doing good stuff
uh,
here, man.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Both of you.
All right. Well, I guess we will wrap it up there. So I will say hi, everybody. Thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, you can now support the Non-Victim Nation by donating via listener support directly on Spotify. Remember, the story of your life is being written right now, and you are the hero.